Hi and welcome back to the channel. Now today what I thought I would do is talk to you a little bit about how much it costs me and Anna to be here. Sometimes on a yearly basis and sometimes on a monthly basis because it varies depending on the bill. And what I'm showing you outside the fence line is the grassed area that we own. And as we talk about the cost of things, we're going to have a walk around the garden. Now I know the microphone is probably picking up a little bit of the breeze, but it's 23 degrees Celsius at the minute, so it's not bad going. Now looking at that grassed area, we bought it as part of the land and the building that we got, and it was designed in such a way that we wanted to be able to stop anybody from putting anything on that piece of land, and so it adds to our view and our feeling of relaxation and well-being. Customary arrival of the dog. She's getting on a bit now, bless her. I'm not sure if she's going deaf or she just chooses to ignore me, but anyway. Now going back to that land, it doesn't cost me anything to leave it as it is. And in actual fact, we do get a grant from the EU. It's cut once a year and it generates bales of feed for local farmers for things like cattle and or sheep. So it doesn't cost us anything. In actual fact, we get something for it. So that for us is a great way for us to not only preserve our view, but not cost us anything, in actual fact make us a small profit. Now this grassed area internally, you can probably make out all these little purple flowers, and these are wild mustards. And going back down to where the dog is at the minute, I'm just going to let this area grow, because what I've discovered over the last couple of years in particular, we get hot weather and it just bakes dry, and you know you end up with nothing except a load of dust. It looks awful, so I'm trying to keep it as tall as I can. I've got grass seeds growing in there as well, and the wildflowers that are in there are great for the pollinators. Now as we walk around, you're going to see an awful lot of dandelions, and as we come across them I'll talk to you a bit about that. But we're a couple of kilometers or so from the village, which is in that direction. Now we could, if we wanted to, get on the bike, but if you're going to go shopping you need a car, so this is the first expense. Okay, so we've got two cars here, and one is for Anna to get to work. She works in a local school, and one is for me to potter around doing whatever it is I do. So let's look at this with regards to cars. Now the first one is that if I had either one of these cars back in the UK, I'd be paying around about £265 in road tax. Now I'm not sure what country you're in. I can only give you the comparisons to what I'm used to. So got a Ford Maverick and a Volkswagen Touran over there. And like I say, £265 a year to road tax these guys in the UK. Here, £27 for the year. That's a big difference. And the insurance as well. Car insurance here, much cheaper than back in the UK. I'm looking around about £30 a year for each one of these. That's a fully comp insurance policy. So you've got to ask the question, why is such a big difference? Sorry, but I can't give you the answer to that. Now just looking at these are lilacs. I'll get a little bit closer. You might be able to make out, they stop moving in the breeze, they're just coming into flower. And of course, they will be lilac in colour. Now, I'm going to show you in a minute as we walk around where I got these from. I didn't pay for these at all. So, they're pretty big and will eventually give me a bit more of a dividing area here. And it, like I say, it hasn't cost me anything. Neither has this fake acacia. Oh, you see, I've got used to saying fake acacia now. Thanks, Jonathan. And they're the parent plants of the acacias. And they just drop seeds or send out runners and just start to grow where they feel like it, including this space. So, got loads of other little baby fake acacias growing in here. I'm just going to let them grow, similar to what we've got in the back, which we'll see in a bit. And then beyond there is the new greenhouse construction, and again we'll come to that in just a second. Let's move around towards the front of the house. Now you know if you've watched the previous video how much we spent on buying this place and then renovating it, so I'm not going to go over that again, but let me give you an indication as to the costs of being here. Now, like I say, I'm comparing to the UK because that's all I know, so it's going to be different where you are. But in the UK they have a thing called council tax, and basically that is supposed to contribute to your various local amenities. A contribution to the police commissioners, a contribution to your local parish council, street lighting, rubbish collection, all that kind of thing. Well, we have the same here, but we don't pay anywhere near the same amount of money as I used to in the UK. Now, I checked recently that the cost, if I was still in my old place back in the UK, for council tax in 1 year would cost me £1,469. What do you reckon it is here? It's £30. Yep, £30. It's another massive saving. Now, I've spoken in the past, or recently rather, about this new construction we've got here, which is a, well, I think I've got the name now, summer house. And it's part office, part summer kitchen, which we're going to be using not only for processing the food that we grow here, but also to help us create herbal remedies, ferments, and that kind of thing. And you know, the more we get into the season, the more you're going to see about that. But that summer house has been built by the same guy building the greenhouse, who also built the pavilion. But they are not the same people that did the renovation on the house. Now, this guy is a carpenter, and hopefully he's not going to watch this video when I say he's bloody good, because he might put his prices up. I'm joking, Stefan, don't. But what we've now done is connected this new greenhouse structure onto the side of the summer house. It's going to give me a bit of a storage area in there. Can you see how everything is growing so quickly here? And you can tell it's getting warm because she is looking for cool places to sit. Now, as we go in, we're going to go into this greenhouse, but as you can see from the sides, it's polycarbonate. Let's take a step inside. It's not quite finished yet. Obviously, we've got to get a door, which is currently being made. Let's go in. So we're facing the side of the summer house. There's the air conditioning unit or heating inverter. And that space there will have a window that will be opened. Just being finished being made. And then we'll get that installed next week. And then we come around to the side. So that's facing the east. Back down towards the gates. And again there, that space there's going to be another window that will open inwards. As we step back round, we look out there. And then basically what we're going to do is I've got to get all this old soil out. We're going to put in a new floor, make it level, remove all the soil from there, and start creating our own growing spaces. Now let's have a quick look at the temperatures. So last night we had a minimum temperature in here of 14.3 Celsius. It's currently 27.9, and the maximum it's been is 35.9 degrees Celsius. So it's certainly a warm environment. Wonder what I'm going to grow in here. But this is all solid wood, handmade, and we've used the old ruin we filled in the holes there, the gaps that we had, you might have seen in other videos, to create a solid base, use what we've already got, and put this wooden frame up. Now, I've looked at having this built in such a way that it's similar in construction to a polycrub, and this has come in at a fraction of the price. I'm not quite sure the final cost yet, but the point I'm making here is that the quality of this build here and the pavilion is a lot stronger than the renovations that we had done on the house. Basically, the house stuff was, you know, replacing floors and all that kind of thing, and that's okay. Windows was another company, and electricians obviously different again. The point I'm making is here is that labour prices here are a lot less than the UK. I don't know what it is in America, for example, but paying a little bit extra if you can create, some really good spaces for yourself, as we can see. So yeah, I think that's worthwhile. Now, moving here was never about finding a cheaper way to live. It was trying to find the way to live that we wanted to enjoy. So in the case of Anna, she wanted to be near the grandchildren, and I suppose to some extent so did I. But I've always had the desire to grow my own stuff. Not because I want to save any money, but the challenge of doing it. Because I've been doing it for over 5 decades now, but certainly not on the scale of this. And it is monumental, and it's a hell of a lot of work for me to do on my Todd. But I'm always amazed by the things that just seem to take over and do their own thing. Now, here's a good example. When we first came here, this patio wasn't around, but I did buy some Aquilegias. Now, let's get a bit of a closer look at those, because they're just here by the side of that lamp. And look how pretty these flowers are. Aren't they nice? And they're all different colours. Got some violets, they're wild violets, I think they are. We've got a random mulberry tree that started to grow. But I planted these Aquilegias all the way down this bed, came all the way across here to this one here, and basically I've done exactly the same as I used to in the UK. I just let them seed, let them go, and now they're going crazy, and we've got them all the way through here. Another free plant. Here's more of these dandelions. Now, I've deliberately let them go to seed because it's encouraging the endless number of goldfinches that we've got here to come and eat the seed heads. If a few set and start to grow, I can pick those yellow flowers and make a dandelion tea from them, and the birds are encouraged to come and eat the seeds, and then they stay around and pick off any of the insects that I don't want eating any other plants. We also have a huge number of wild poppies that grow here. They just seem to pop up, excuse the pun, whenever they feel like it. And again, I'm going to let them go. If I had a formal garden here and everything was neat and tidy and square lines and everything else, one, it would be boring. Two, it would cost me a fortune in bringing in new plants all of the time. And three, the time it would take to keep it manicured to the detriment of the nature, it's not possible. Now, okay, the grass does need cutting over there. I did it the other day, but we've had a bit of rain and a bit of moisture, and now the heat, and look, it's just taken over. So that does need a haircut. And that tree lily, again, it just keeps dividing itself. It's no cost. But it's possible to create a garden, however big or small, for very little input. Now, there's more of these lilacs here as well. And they've come from the same source as the ones I've just shown you at the front. And these are the oxide daisies that I sowed last year, just after my mother passed away, because she liked them. And now they're coming into bud for the first time. So again, I'm just going to let them take over. Why not? Now, running costs for the house also vary quite considerably. We'll start with the basics, which is water. Now, in the UK, many people are on water meters, and you pay an amount of money to the water company, not only to bring in your fresh water, but to take away your waste in the drains. Well, we don't have that system here. The first thing is we have a borehole, which gives us our own water for irrigating the plants, either in the vegetable garden, and I'll come on to that in a minute because that's all changed, and also washing machine, that kind of stuff. And it's not good enough quality, we don't think, to be able to drink. So we can go down to the village, to one of the freshwater pumps there, and fill up our 5-gallon container and use that to either drink or to cook with. Now the thing is, I need to be careful because my family has a history of arthritic type problems, and basically that means that I want to regulate the amount of acid I have in my system to reduce, in my case, any incidences of gout, which can happen, and also in other family members' case, some of them get kidney stones, so it's kind of related. So I drink a certain type of water here, which is a mineral water. It comes in a 1.5 litre bottle, and that costs me 50p a bottle, which is nothing. And in the hot summer days when I'm working in the garden, I can get through 3 or 4 of those, no problem whatsoever. So that's important for me. The other thing with regards to the wastewater is this. So we're heading towards the wood store. And in the wood store, below that cap, manhole cover, is our septic tank, which we get emptied every 9 months. And when that's done, that costs us on average about £50. So the point I'm getting to is that we only spend, with regards to water, we spend £50 every 9 months on emptying the septic tank, and then the drinking waters, etc., are free. Okay, it takes a bit of effort to go and get the container, but if you're coming back from town, it's not such a disaster, is it? So I stood on the pavilion. Maybe now you can see the logic of us having that piece of land outside beyond the gate to keep our view intact. Very nice to sit out here of a summer's evening with a glass of something and relax after a busy day. Talking of glass of something, let me show you this. Now in Hungary, they don't have a pub culture or tradition. They have places where the men go. It's not a welcoming place for the ladies. So a lot of people like to have a drink at home. Fine, no problem with that. And obviously, if you drink at home, it's going to be cheaper than going out. But here, it's a lot less to buy a beer to drink at home than it is back in the UK. And let me give you an example of that. So I've got a beer fridge. I do like my beer. And there it is. Now that is just over a pint of beer, which is, the APV is around about 4.7%. And that comes out at 60p per glass, per pint. So it's a lot less than I'm used to in the UK. When I was in the UK, you'd be paying around about £3 or £4 for a pint. Well, £4 a pint. Mates of mine back home or back in the UK tell me that you can be looking between £5, £6 and £7. So there is a big difference. Now, if you do go out and you have a drink in town with a meal, you're still way less than the UK. But, I can't give you, definitive prices because I don't really know. But, that is another big saving. Now, if you do have the space, you can grow your own food. And for us, this is an important part of our lives here. Now, these are tomato seedlings. I've got to slow them down a bit. They're going a bit too crazy because in here in the summer house, we've got a temperature of 21 degrees Celsius, 64% humidity. So these are desperate to get growing. They've been potted on 3 times now. I've got some cayennes there. I've got various chilies there and some more cayennes there. Now I have a lot more other seedlings in here, but I've had to take them outside just to slow them down a little bit. And then just a quick check, we've still got some garlic from last season. So, why do we want to grow our own food? Well, there's a number of reasons. Organic, as far as we're concerned, is much better for us than conventionally grown. I can't say traditional, there's no such thing as traditional growing with regards to food. We don't want the chemicals, basically. Now we're going to wander along the back of this wall here, because as you can see here, it's in the shade, it faces the north, or the northeast actually to be exact, and I'm trying to slow down some of the growth of some of these crops. I'll show you what we've got as we go along. So in this first tray here, I've got cantaloupe melons, but they haven't done brilliantly. Then I've got some cucumbers and I've got some pumpkins there. Now coming on to the mainstays, the staples. So we've got some cabbage, got some leeks, got some kohlrabis, and we've got, I think they are butternuts. This is a new one for me this year. These are chickpeas. I sowed them 10 days ago. They've taken a little bit of time to germinate, but they're coming out. Some are getting quicker than others. Some more there. Salad leaves for picking for the leaves themselves. And you'll notice that these first 3 boxes are smaller than the big one there. That's because one of these boxes was the same as the green. I've literally divided it all up, transplanted them out, and so these 3 will fill up. So one of the other jobs I've got to do is do the same with this back one here. So I'll end up with 6 boxes of salad leaves. This here is spinach. It's taken a while to grow, and we might be able, I don't know if you can see the reflection there, Jack is inside playing silly so-and-sos. Can you see him? Anyway, spinach, got to go in the ground. We've got some more cabbages here. And now these are beans. They haven't been, they grew too fast and they're what's called forced. So I'm not sure whether I'm going to plant those or just start again in the ground. Now, with regards to food shopping in the supermarket, I did a comparison recently and I used a supermarket that likes to help everybody by saying every little helps. So I've used the Hungarian version and the UK version. Now the thing is here, what I did was I used it for basics, so things like vegetable oil, flour, sugar, butter, that kind of thing. Now the thing is that the cost between the 2 baskets was minimal. There wasn't much of a saving, but when you consider one thing here, and that is that Hungary does have VAT on food. Now if that was taken off, obviously the price would be less because there's no VAT on food in the UK. Having said that, there are issues at the moment with food inflation. Lots of reports are saying that, oh, it's gone up by 80%, but they never tell you in however many years. So it's a little bit misguided. So for me, what I tend to do is get a rough idea. And like I say, by doing that comparison and think to myself, right, well, okay, yeah, what can I not buy from the supermarket and either make or grow myself? Because food shopping, I think wherever you are in the world, has become more expensive for various reasons. I need some of those josta berries. They're looking all right, aren't they? What else did I put in here? Raspberries here. And some tayberries, which are here. And the rhubarb is growing. And that rocket has gone to flower, and we'll be collecting the seeds. Now, on the back end of the house, we've got this huge old lilac. And what I did when we first came was that I got inside here, and if you look down there, you can see some smaller plants. Trace them back, you can actually dig them up. And that's exactly what I did, and planted them out the front that we saw at the beginning of the video. So again, another free resource. Just by transplanting them at the right time of year, you can get additional plants for nothing. Now what I do notice when I travel around here is that everybody seems to have a wood store or stack, and I'm no exception. And if we look at this here, I've got some prunings, if you like, from the acacias that we had felled towards the end of last season. I've got some leftover silver birch from a couple of years ago, and some other bits and pieces I've got to process, and I will be getting that chopped up over the summer months and into the wood store ready for next year. With regards to wood and burning, or heating rather, in the UK I used to use oil for central heating, and that was very expensive. Now here I obviously use the wood, and it works out at being a 50% difference in price. It's 50% less here for me to use this wood than it is to burn oil. So again, another saving. So where are we up to at the minute? Our council tax, £30 here, 1,469 in the UK. Electricity for us is kind of controlled price wise. We pay the equivalent of £56 a month for our electricity here. And in the UK, if I was using today's prices, I'd be paying £140 a month. So again, there's another massive saving there. And like I've said already about the car tax, is 27 or 30 quid as opposed to £265. So already there's some big savings to be had. Now, if you want to be growing your own food, it requires effort and maintenance. Let's take a look at that, because there is a cost involved with that as well. As we come into the vegetable patch, you'll see they've got the weather station on the one side, and this little flat disc here is a Starlink for our internet connection. Now I get a download speed here using Starlink of 300. In the UK, it was about 30 if I was lucky. So there's a massive difference in service or quality there. And here's the other thing, that this cost me £10 a month less than the deal I had back in the UK. So I don't know what it is now. Now, I've installed, or part installed, a new way of watering the vegetable patch. And it starts with this. Now, if you watched any of the videos during last summer, you'll remember I had a tap here and used to have to connect a hose pipe. But now I've connected this pipe here, and it comes up to this place. It comes up here to this T. Now, I'm not going to make any apologies for these beds, but I will tell you why they are like they are. They look like they're full of weed, but as you will know if you watch me on a regular basis, I don't have weeds here, I have plants. And there's a reason behind that. Weeds can actually help us. Now, as we go along this pipe here, you can see that I've got this tap that connects onto the pipe, and then the hose connects onto that, goes all the way up to the end. We fit a stopper, and then this is a form of drip irrigation. And if we look, we go all the way along. Now I'm actually watering this, I'm keeping it all on. I haven't got used to it yet. I don't know how efficient it is, but it seems to be okay. I tend to panic because I've never used this stuff before. I don't know if it's going to burst or what, but you can see the line of water, and so it's drip irrigation. It's actually using less water than it would do if it was a sprinkler, and it's not evaporating off. That's the important thing for me. And we come along to here, and again, there's one there, there's another set there. It's actually changed the way I'm sowing my seeds. Before I would go from left to right, but now I'm following the hoses and going from top to bottom, or bottom to top, however you want to word it. In there I've got 2 rows of beetroots, and that looks like an awful lot of beetroots in there. Now coming across to this side here, I've got the onions, and in between all these, or by the side of each one of these pipes, I've sown carrots, because carrots and onions go together. The onion scent stops the carrot root fly coming in and having a pop at your carrots. So companion planting working at its best. That looks all right. And then through here, I've got a similar thing going on here. So again, some onions and carrots, and down towards the end there I've got garlic. Now I really could do with putting another pipe in here, because as you can see it's looking a little bit dry, so I don't want those garlics to go off. But I don't know whether I can do that, or whether I do need to have an additional hose pipe here anyway, so I might just leave that and water it by hand. I'm not sure, I haven't decided. But as we go through, let me show you this particular bed. Now there's nothing in here at the minute except flowers, which are wildflowers that the insects are going to get on and start feeding from, which is good. But when I'm ready to get these out, and I don't want to leave these in the ground and flower, otherwise they set more seeds, I can remove them just before they set seed, and add them to the compost, which again, I don't buy in now. So I've got free fertility. Now here, I've got this bloody crabgrass, but again, it's pretty easy to lift out because it's a no-dig bed. And I've got some parsnips there, but I'm letting them grow to seed, I think, ready to sow next year. So there's 4 or 5 in there. It seems to have survived the winter. And then this bed here is ready to go. I've got to obviously give it a weed. So the point I'm making here is that what I want to do is I don't want to be spending too much time on clearing weeds and then having to do it all over again. When I'm ready to put something in the ground, that's the time for me to prep the bed. If I keep things in the ground, then I don't have to spend too much money on fertilizing the soil, feeding the soil, because it will feed itself. So again, it's another big saving for me. Coming through here, you can see where I've got things to do. I've got that bed's ready to sow. There's a few little weeds that I've got to tidy up, but when I'm hand sowing, I can do that as I go along. Same with that one. Now we've got a bit of a cock up here. The idea was I wanted to sow, I sowed beans in here last year, which fixed the nitrogen, and then what we wanted to do was to thin out the strawberries from the main bed into here. You might remember me saying about it. Well, we did it too late, and these guys haven't really fared well. But look at the flowers on these strawberries. Now last year we got 30 or 40 kilos of strawberries out of this small bed, which is a massive saving. Organic strawberries, 30 kilos. Froze some, ate quite a lot, grandkids loved it. Let me show you something else. Now I gave this quite a good harvesting yesterday. And in 24 hours, this asparagus has come back with a vengeance. So I sowed these from seed. Now if you know how much asparagus is, if you can grow your own organically from seed, it's worth the effort. So again, another big saving. We're just coming over to another area that I'm about to build a new no-dig bed. And so basically all this is cardboard on the ground. It's been here for a few days. If we get any rain, then that will just, settle down nicely. That's no problem. And then I'm going to be taking the compost from our composting bays down there, get this filled up to the edge of the wood, and then it'll be ready for me to plant something in there. And I'm thinking of the melons and the squashes. Now me personally, I can't put a price on having this space, because when I'm not in here, it doesn't do me any favours. So every time I'm in here, I feel great after doing a day's work in here. Great exercise, so no gym memberships. The food that we get out of this ground is incredible, and it saves me an absolute fortune in having to buy organic produce that you really can't guarantee is grown in the way that you would prefer. But if I said as an average that organic produce is around, say, £4 a kilo, then last year 4 times 532, over 2,000 quid. It's not bad, is it, if you look at it that way? But it's really not you can't really evaluate that kind of thing. But if you've got the opportunity to buy a place here, then you should really consider it if you want to do that, if you want this kind of lifestyle. Just remember though that the cost for you in the summer is very warm temperatures, very challenging conditions, and you've got to put the infrastructure in place. Now going back to the irrigation here, all this pipe work and the fittings and the thing has actually come in at less than £100. So I think that's pretty good going. Now bearing in mind that last year I was out here 4 hours a day watering, if you did that as a monetary term, forget the cost of the hose pipes that you have to use and drag around, and you were paying yourself 10 quid an hour, that's 40 quid a day, 7 days a week. You're looking over £1,000 a month, aren't you? The other thing is that at the end of your hoses that you use, you need a sprayer or a nozzle. And in this UV, they don't last. So you're having to replace those every year as well. And even the fittings on the hoses, they all get brittle and dry out and just no good. So I'm hoping that this new system, once I've got it all installed and all the beds ready to go, will be a much better way to water. Not only is it going to save me time, but also I'll end up using less water. It'll be more efficient. So I've got my bit of paper here, and really all I can say is that I can only give you examples of the things that I can compare like for like with regards to back in the UK as opposed to here. So like I say, the car insurance is one, the electricity is an interesting one. Now I could install solar here, but there is an issue with that. The first one is that I can't sell it necessarily back to the grid, and therefore come the winter when you don't have days like today, I'm just looking up, there's quite a large buzzard high up there kicking off. I can't generate solar power, and I can't generate enough to store in batteries long enough for me to use within the house. I've got to buy whatever I put back into the grid and buy it back again when I want it. And to me, that doesn't really make a lot of sense. So for the time being, we're sticking to the electric supply that we have. And as I say, looking at this, £56 a month for electric bill here, running the house, the wood burning stove when it's pumping the water around, the water being pumped from here out to the vegetable garden, the summer house behind us with the fridges and the freezers and all the other things that go in there, and the office. There's quite a lot that it's doing, and our hot water as well, because that isn't a cheap thing to have. Relatively speaking, £56 a month as opposed to £140 a month is a big saving. So just looking at those three costs there, it comes in at a saving of just over £2,000 a year, 2,200-ish. You know, your car insurance is going to vary on what car you have, how old it is, what your style of driving is like, all that kind of, you know, this is a generalisation. But 2,200 quid as a saving just on those three things alone certainly makes it worthwhile considering. The thing is that here for us, this is a lifestyle choice for me, and you choose what lifestyle you want. Obviously, I'm not here to say to you, you've got to do this, you've got to do that. But what this channel is doing is showing you how I do it myself, to perhaps give you some ideas and maybe a bit of inspiration to try one or two things. Even if you learn how to turn those dandelions into a healthy drink that can help you with any remedies that you may be looking for. You're not going to a shop to buy it. It's free growing. So again, it's another saving. It is difficult to quantify, and give you a precise figure. I can only tell you how good it makes me feel. And not only in physically doing something and being outside, but also looking at new challenges and thinking, oh, can I do something like that? I mean, the other day I heard that if I had aches and pains, and at my age I'm going to get a lot more of them than before, I don't need to go out and buy a jar of heat cream, like Ralgex or Voltarol or whatever it's called. I can make my own. And if I can make my own using stuff that I've grown out there, well, the feel-good factor for me is a lot better than just going into a chemist and spending a few quid on something that I produce myself. But it does take commitment. You do need a little bit of luck on your side. You certainly need some knowledge, and hopefully get some from this. You need to find a decent tradesman. You need to find a decent builder, a decent electrician, all this kind of stuff. If you're going to go down the route of renovation, renovating this place from that video you hopefully you've seen will give you an indication as to what it's like cost-wise. But when you sum it all up and you look around, hello, generally speaking, it ain't too bad, is it? The other thing I find interesting is that I'm reminded of all these things that I'm doing now. I used to do when I was a kid, and I'm a kid of the 1970s. So, learning about the plants and whatever else, my mother taught me all this kind of stuff. And making compost, my father taught me all about that. So it's been going around for a while. So now I'm using all the things I've learned over the last 5 decades and putting them into practice here, which is something I've always wanted to do. And that you can't put a price on. Okay, I'm fortunate enough to not have to have a mortgage on this place. And as I've mentioned already, £2,200 saving. Now, if I did have a mortgage or a rent, I'd be looking at another 12 grand on top of that. I don't have any of that, but like I say, I haven't included that really because you might be in a completely different situation to me. So I'm just covering the basics: the heating, the lighting, the food, the ability to grow your own, and the savings. Now, one of the other challenges I'm setting myself, if I haven't got enough already, is I want to see how much stuff that comes into our house that we buy from the supermarket that we don't necessarily have to. Now, I know there are some things from the shop I'm going to have to go and get. Obvious one, loo roll. I can't make that. And I'm not about to start going off picking flowers. So, you know, there are some things we can't do. But if I can find, you know, someone that can supply me with raw milk, for example, I'm looking at making our own butter or cheese. I'm very keen to look at fermenting more stuff here, because last year we did ferment some things and they've been very good, as you may have seen in other videos. So I want to expand that. Now, in order to do some very good quality ferments, you need some decent kit. We already have some of it here, but there's going to be other things. But if I can set that all up, it's a one-off cost, relatively cheaply, then again, it enhances our environment here. And again, it's something that we don't have to go to a supermarket for to buy. And to be honest with you, I don't think I've ever seen fermented cucumbers in the store. Have you? If you have, let me know. But I don't remember seeing any. So for me, moving here has been a massive lifestyle change. But it's also given me the opportunity to fulfill my dream of producing our own stuff. And as an extra bonus, without looking for it, save quite a bit of money as well. So I hope you got something out of that video. And if you did, have a look at some more. Here's the one about me starting the our journey here when we bought the house and what it cost us to do. And there's a few other bits and pieces in there. I've even got another video somewhere on the channel about all the paperwork. That in itself is a headache. But once you get through that, it's a one-off task. Then you can get into this. Hope you got something of that video, and I'll catch you next time. Take care.